Toto Wolff has insisted Valtteri Bottas' braking blunder on lap 1 at the Hungaroring last Sunday that triggered a huge pile-up will have no bearing on Mercedes' future driver lineup. In damp conditions at the Hungarian Grand Prix, Bottas raced down to turn 1 off the grid before misjudging his braking and skidding into the rear of Lando Norris before careering into Sergio Perez, while Max Verstappen was tagged by the stranded Norris as he slid across the track. With rumours continuing to circle about the Finnish driver's future at Mercedes, with current Williams driver George Russell waiting to pounce should Bottas' seat become available, and the 31-year-old only sat in 4th in the drivers' standings, the incident in Hungary could be a tipping point in deciding if Bottas receives a new deal with the constructor going into the 2022 season. However, team principal Toto Wolff was quick to rebuff any such rumours when asked whether the crash could affect contract negotiations. "It doesn't influence the decision at all," said Wolff. "The mistake was unfortunate with big consequences. He got sandwiched by the 2 cars in front and lost downforce, and then it was already too late." Mercedes had mistakes across Sunday. Bottas' team were not devoid of blame for the outcome of the race last Sunday, but while they could do nothing to prevent Valtteri from his early retirement after just 1 corner, the decision to keep Lewis Hamilton on intermediate tyres at the race restart after the incident, when the rest of the grid dived into the pits to fit slick tyres in the drying conditions, certainly appeared to be a misguided one, as Hamilton took to the grid alone for the restart before immediately being forced to pit on the following lap for his own set of slicks, sending him tumbling down the field and forcing his incredible fight back to finish 2nd rather than potentially cruising to victory from pole position. Wolff, however, stood by his team's decision in the moment. "I think it was 100% the right decision and I stand by it. You need to make the call out there and judge if it is dry enough or not. I thought we have done 1 lap, it could possibly dry up as it did, and in the end you have to take it on the chin. It was the wrong outcome, but the decision was right. Maybe with karma, maybe we didn't deserve to win and take 25 points. On the other side of the title battle, and Red Bull Racing were, for the 2nd race weekend in a row, left counting the cost of making contact with a Mercedes on lap 1 of a Grand Prix, as both Sergio Perez and Max Verstappen were involved in the accident caused by Valtteri Bottas on Sunday at the Hungarian Grand Prix. After shelling out a whopping $1.8 million to rebuild Verstappen's car after his crash at Silverstone when he made contact with Lewis Hamilton on lap 1 of the British Grand Prix, the constructor was once again left with a hefty construction bill after a race weekend, when Sergio Perez was retired by the Mercedes driver Bottas as the Finn caused carnage under braking at turn 1 in Hungary. Verstappen was also caught up in the contact, with hefty damage done to the floor of his RB16B, along with damage to the barge board and side of his car. And despite repairs being made to the Dutchman's ride mid-race before the restart, the title challenger to Lewis Hamilton had almost no chance to recover, destroying his opportunity for a 6th win of the season. Speaking after Sunday's action, Red Bull team principal Christian Horner was asked if his opposite number at Mercedes, Toto Wolff, had apologised for the accident. "Is he going to pay for the bill?" remarked Horner. "It is racing. Toto wasn't driving the car, Valtteri was driving the car. I am sure he, Wolff, didn't tell him to drive into the Red Bull. I'm sure he isn't sorry about the result, but I am sure he didn't tell Valtteri to do that. But the consequence of it for us is brutal. In the cost cap environment, that needs looking at, and needs looking at by the FIA. Obviously, you've got to look at what's within the cap," continued Horner. "It's spare parts and it's the engines as well that are particularly concerning. So I think we need to revisit this with the FIA, because ultimately it is something that could affect all teams and not just Red Bull." While the incident will cost Red Bull a pretty penny, Valtteri Bottas has been given a 5-place grid penalty for the upcoming Belgian Grand Prix at the end of the month for causing the race-changing incident. And finally, Aston Martin plan to appeal the disqualification of Sebastian Vettel from Sunday's Hungarian Grand Prix after the FIA was unable to take an adequate fuel sample from his Aston Martin at the end of the race, which cost the German driver his fantastic second place finish at the Hungaroring. Vettel had been chasing, finishing 1.8 seconds behind the race winner. After taking the checkered flag and his second runners-up finish of the season, the former world champion was forced to stop on the track on his cool-down lap as his AMR 21 had seemingly run out of fuel. As a result, the FIA was only able to take 0.3 litres of fuel as a sample from Vettel's car, 0.7 litres less than the minimum required 1 litre for the FIA. This led to Vettel's disqualification from the race on Sunday night, handing second place to Mercedes' Lewis Hamilton and third to Ferrari driver Carlos Sainz. However, later that evening, it was reported that Aston Martin had sent to the stewards their notice of intention of appeal for the DQ. This action leads now to Vettel's car being impounded by the FIA technical department representatives until the actual notice of appeal is officially received, or the FIA International Court of Appeal makes any determinations as relevant. Aston Martin now has 96 hours to confirm whether it will formally appeal. The clock is now ticking until just after 10 o'clock on August 5th, or Thursday night this week. The appeal seems likely from the team after Aston Martin's team principal, Otmar Safnauer, spoke to Motorsport magazine, telling them he was convinced there was more than enough fuel in Vettel's car for a sample. "We know how much fuel we put in," said the Aston Martin boss. "We know exactly how much we have used via the fuel flow meter because we have to declare the starting quantity. We can prove it that way." So perhaps we're going to see the results change once again before we get to Spa in a month's time for the Belgian Grand Prix. We do have now plenty to talk about in this dry month of F1 on-track action. Do you think that Aston Martin are going to get the decision overturned? Let us know in the comments section below. And of course, we want to hear all of your thoughts on the ongoing rivalry between Red Bull and Mercedes. How much is it going to cost Red Bull to rebuild both of those cars after the incident this weekend? Remember to hit the subscribe button down below to stay up to date with everything that we do, and of course get on to Twitter and Instagram at GPFans Global. That's at GPFans Global to stay up to date with all of our content across all platforms.